important that I'm going to record it, okay? And I think it's really important to do what Avi said first was, at first he forgot to read because it's above the graph and it didn't ask you any of the questions. But it says right there, for exercises 15 through 18, use the following information. In a recent survey, 150 dog owners and 200 cat owners were asked what type of food their pets like. Here are the results of the survey. Even though the reading had that information, you could have found it out yourself. Did you figure it out yourself, Zoe? How'd you do that?
I just added all of the ones from the dogs.
Right. They shouldn't have to tell you, but it was nice that they did, so you can make sense of the table. And when you add 75, well, 5 plus 5 plus 0, you get a 10. And 7, 1 make 8, 4 more, make 12. 15. That adds to 150, and this one, if you check, adds to 200. So you could have done it without that, but it sure was helpful. Andrew. Okay, did you get 100% of your homework?
No.
So do this first, and there'll be times. I would still follow along. Okay, so let's just do this. So for the category number 15, it asks what category of food is most favored by dogs, and then find the fraction, the decimal, and the percent. You got them all right? Okay, so let's do 15 and just hang in there. So for 15, what I would expect on your paper is maybe you don't copy the whole problem, but you might do a small table just for dogs because it's easier to focus, and just take those numbers out. And it asks you about dogs only, so you can look at this separate. And this is 150. And then it asks which is most favored by dogs. So it's pretty easy to see that 75 of the dogs prefer human food, which is true about dogs. 1. So what'd you do next to get the decimal and the percent? Yeah.
Well, I already knew that 75%.
Okay. So for the fraction, it sounds to me like you identified that right away, right? So you knew the fraction was going to be 75 out of 150. And then you divide it by 75 in your brain somehow because you knew this was half, right?
Yeah.
That works. So you get the fraction. So then do you know that as a percent?
Yeah,
50.
it's a benchmark fraction.
Because it's a benchmark fraction and the decimal's 0.50 then, right?
Yeah.
Or just 0.5?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you skip down to 17, it says, what if there were only 100 dogs, right? Is that the problem you were stuck with?
Yeah.
So that's where you want to get the total to be 100 somehow. So 15 asks you to get the fraction of the dogs that most prefer human food, and then write it as a percent and a decimal. But problem 17 asks you to predict, what if there were 100 dogs? Then how many of those dogs would like human food? How many of them would like pet food? And how many of them would like a combination of both? So you need to take your ratio table and make that 100. There's lots of ways to get there. Any ideas? What do you want to do, Anderson?
You could do times 10.
That would be really big, though. You could.
Well, yeah,
How about if you doubled?
yeah, if you double, then it would be 200, 300.
300?
And then you could do 300 divided by 3.
Yeah. So your other way would also work. It's just bigger numbers. If you just double, then I don't know if you heard what he said, then divide by 3. We're going to get the 100 that we want. And so we're going to divide everything by 3. So this is 50, that's 30, and that's 20. So if there were 100 dogs, we would know that 50 of them would prefer what?
The
Human food, right? And how many would prefer pet food? 30 would prefer pet food.
And human and pet food.
Right. And then 20 would prefer human and pet food. So that's a super important style problem. Okay, and they have the problem 16 and problem 18 are the same type of problem with cats, right?
Yeah, but you said 9, that's 29, but that.
It does, so we'll do it.
No, like, but the answer itself,
Should we do it?
Yeah, no, but what, the only thing I'm saying is that the answers would be 18%, 24%, 58%.
Okay, I don't know, I'm not sure what you're talking about, so I think we should do it. It sounds like you don't agree with the answers that they had.
The answers that they had are, they're, so those 50, 30, and 20, they're.
Okay, am I correct in assuming you disagreed with the answers that were up?
Not exactly disagree. Like
Okay,
it said 9 owners would say this, and then 29 owners would say that. That is not, it's not the answer. The answer is 18%, 24%, and 58%. That is not the answer to the problem.
I don't think I'm necessarily agreeing with you. So let's just before we do that, can we wrap up 15 or 17? Did that help you one?
Yeah.
Anderson? That's fine if you got perfect homework. Did you get perfect homework on 16 and 18? It's already perfect? Okay. Remember, these are really important test questions, so if you're opting out of this, you know, I would be concerned if you're not perfect at it. So for cats, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do human, pet, human and pet, and total. And I'm not exactly clear on your question, so I'm going to build the problem so you can tell me what you're talking about specifically. This is 36, that's 116, that's 48, and that's 200, and I just took that from this page over here.
Divide everything by 2.
Okay, I agree. I would divide everything by 2 to get the percent for sure. So that's 24.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
The answers would be
but this is 58, and this is 18.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got.
Okay, I think that, hold on. So for problem 16, they just ask you what category is most preferred by cats, and we would agree that it's
Wait,
the,
are you talking about problem 16 or talking about problem 18?
well, to get to 18, we need to do 16.
Yes.
Okay, so for problem 16, we agree that the category is pet food, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
And we also seem to agree that it would be 58%, and the decimal would be 0.58, and the fraction, if you don't reduce it, is 58 out of 100, right?
And that would be reduced like
By 2.
29/15.
Yes. So far, it sounds like we agree on all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you get to problem 18, it says suppose there's 50 cat owners. Then you need to suppose there's a 50 here.
So you can divide by 2.
Yes.
What?
So then there would be 12 of those cats that like human and pet food. 29 of them.
I see. Nice. I put down 100 for the dogs and I didn't.
Okay. So just to be clear, so we're not, let's wrap it up properly. For this one, it's really if there were 50 cats, 9 would prefer the human food, right?
And then the rest.
and then
29.
29 would prefer,
And then the last one's 12.
right,
Oh, then I got that.
prefer pet food, right?
Yep.
Does that help, Nadine?
Yes, it does.
And 12 would prefer both. But you know what I like, you guys, is I'm pretty sure that Dean understands this now all the way because he's very persistent, and being very persistent is actually a really good strategy to be successful in math. Rather than just saying, I get it. When you say I get it, you usually might not be perfect. You want to be as perfect as you can. So those are big problems. I'm going to record them. We'll post them as I'll put them right. I'll just put them down as the ACE numbers, but I'm going to also write important problems. So you guys